Right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is number 3 on a Friday from the Broke-Ass Redneck. Yes, I am back at it again. Like I said in the last video, I got long in the tooth. Yeah, I'd like to build a pretty hot truck. Guess what? Even though I'm in my late 40s and all that, I have come to find that adapting with the times is a good thing. Now, yeah, these guys doing, like I said, I'd like to see them guys down there at Velocity Motorsports in Valdosta, Georgia, when I go down that way. And the reason why is because I enjoy the content. I enjoy the work that they're doing. They're not just, they taking their stuff down to South Georgia Motorsports Park out there in Adel, Georgia. You got to say Adel, not Adele. They get pissed down here on the way. Let me tell you. So, anyway, I know where the Motorsports Park is. I've driven by it. She'll have, because, it's close to my in-laws' place down yonder way. So, with that being said, yeah, I'd like to see them. But I have adapted myself. I have adapted with, I've tried to adapt with the times. Yeah, I grew up on carbureted. And stuff like that. I grew up in the late 70s, 80s. Carburation was the thing. We were still running carbs. And even though fuel injection has been around since the 50s or probably even before that, it wasn't as mainstream as it became in the 80s. And it has become more refined. And as it has become more refined, so is the technology to control everything. Which is why, yes, computerized stuff can be tasking to work with, but I don't mind it myself. I buy diagnostic tools when I can, like my Autel scanner. No, I don't have any of that fancy stuff. I don't have any HP tuning stuff or anything like that. But yeah, I'd like to get into it. I'd like to learn how to tune. I would like to learn how to. But guess what? I'd like to learn how to do it on my own stuff. That way I can go, hey, I did this. Just like building my computer. Hey, I did this. That is some of the goals that your broke-ass redneck friend would like to do. Now, what would I throw a motor in? There is no telling. I mean, somebody, I like I said, I like trucks. I like Chevys. So I would probably go with, I've got an OBS. I've got a 97 1500 Silverado. It's time, I guess you would call it an LS before it was an LS trim, because it doesn't have leather seats, but it's got power windows, tilt, cruise. It's got the bells, it's got the whistles that I want, air conditioning. It's a nice ride. Besides it looking like it has been sitting out in the field for 20 years right now, because I got discouraged. In 2010, this is another reason why I like my old Chevrolet 2010. It got hit by a Kia and caved in the whole bedside. Hell, I'm still driving that truck. I pulled out the bed. All it did to the rear end, it kind of shifted the springs a little bit and bent one axle shaft and a backing plate. Fixed all that, put it back together. Been driving it ever since. I mean, she's a tough old bird. 288,000 miles on the clock, and the only thing I've done to it, no, 278, I'm sorry, 278,000 miles on the clock. And yeah, I've rebuilt the motor, but I rebuilt the motor because I thought something was wrong with it when it was just a blown intake gasket. I went ahead, I had all the shit there, I was like, screw it, let's do it. 188,000 miles. Yeah, I think it's like an old school engine. Old school engine, you get maybe 200,000 miles and you was due for a rebuild. Well, hell, I didn't realize how well the technology had changed by the late 90s, when they started using lower tension rings that didn't eat up your cylinder walls. So, I mean, I pulled a block apart and there wasn't nowhere. Like, I thought I had a blown head gasket. No, it was a stupid intake gasket, but I already had the motor out tore apart before I figured it out. It just one of them moments, and I already had to rebuild kit. I was like, screw it, we're doing it. So it got punched, put back in the truck. Some upgrades, some crazy upgrades, some upgrades that people told me, oh, that's an old school trick. Yeah, it's an old school trick, but damn it, if an old school trick still works on the new school, use it. You know, like my valve springs. A guy looked at me, and I actually picked it up from reading an article in a Hot Rod magazine about beehive, how to make improvements on Vortec heads, L31 Vortec heads. You can take and get you some Comp-Cam's beehive springs. Well, I'm like, well, hell, GM already makes beehives, so let's look into it and see what we can do. Well, what did I come across? I came across a yellow set of LS2 valve springs. Brand new. They're supposed to go into a Z06 Vet, an LS2 motor. Well, guess what? My truck has LS2 springs in it, and it's a 1997 L31 Vortec V8. You can use them. I upgraded and put titanium locks and retainers in it. You know, did a 3-angle valve job, and went to town. I got the extra lift I wanted. Guy looks at me. I told him what I put in. He's like, you went old school. I'm like, what's wrong with old school? Some old school stuff still works. I mean, hell, we've been changing lifters and springs and different things from different applications for years. It still works. You don't have to go out all the time and buy that $100 stuff. You want your valve to open up some more? Yeah, that's the way to do it. Old school tricks. It still get me that 500 plus lift on it if I wanted to open it. You know, that's what I'm looking at. Simple modification. Cheap. It cost me like, I got the springs on eBay brand new for like $60. You know, it was a lot cheaper than me paying $200 for a set of valve springs. I didn't have $200 for the valve spring, so hey, there it is. Ta-da! When life hands you lemons, you make lemonade. When life hands you apples, you make applesauce. That's what I did. I used some good old intuition. That's like, I do not run the preferred oil filter on anything hardly. Except for my truck. I try to use my AC Delco PF1218. That is what my truck requires. My 03 Tahoe is supposed to use like a PF46E. It's got a PF61E, a taller oil filter. My wife's Buick Enclave is supposed to use like a PF47E. It's got a PF63E oil filter on it. Guess what? It holds a little more. It holds just a little more oil. And I've always done stuff like that. I've always made an accommodation. I can look at stuff and I can look at an oil filter and figure out, you know, sit there and study on it a bit and figure out a different comparison. I like it's a cheap upgrade. Just a little extra on the oil filter. It's a little extra oil protection. It's a little extra oil without having to go with sumps and everything else. You know, taller sump pan and dry sump and everything else. You know, simple things can go a long way, especially when you're making mods and tunes. Something as simple as shaving a lip. I mean, it all produces power. So, with that being said, I have gotten off into car talk on the Redneck Ass pre-Friday. So, with that being it, you know, it is almost closing the video, and here I am blabbing about cars and trucks, because that's one of the passions that I have. Y'all have your own cars and working on vehicles. That's one of mine. I like doing it, just like I like building computers. I like doing stuff where I can apply my thought. Anyway, that's it. Y'all have a great one. Peace and fish grease.